Daddy's talking to himself again.
Hopefully this project's something a bit different for you. It's a very special resin project. I start by mounting this Idigbo blank onto the spindle, and I'm using an Easywood Tools Easy Rougher to cut it to round. The dust coming off this Idigbo is terrible. I'm now truing up the face and marking out the recess for the Easy Chuck jaws. Now onto the contents of this very nice parcel I received from the United States from my friends at Easywood Tools. And firstly, lovely stylish cap, Easywood Tools cap that came. If we look in here, there's some real treasure. Firstly, I'd like to show you this. This is the Easywood Tools parting tool, and it's a carbide parting tool with interchangeable tips. Amazing bit of kit, and I'm actually going to be using that on the next bit of my project. I've used one of these before at Makers Central, but I've got my own one now. So that's the first one. I've then been sent a mid-size Easy Rougher, a mid-size Easy Finisher, and a mid-size number 1 hollower. These are 3 fantastic tools, and I've got similar tools to this with bigger tips, but I have actually got they've sent me these for a reason, because in the bottom of this package are these, and these are the replacement carbide tips for these tools, and these are the special new tips which are Negative Rake. They're specially for doing work with resin, because they stop the chipping out. They greatly reduce the chance of chipping out. And there we are, 3 replacement tips for those tool handles, and they are fantastic. I'm really looking forward to having a go with those, and this project is going to push them to their limit, really, if the project works. I'm working on the first bit at the minute. I'm going to be using that new parting tool in a minute to create the recess for my Easy Chuck. And I've got the big stepped jaws in the Easy Chuck, so it's quite a big recess I'm doing, but it's a hefty lump of wood. This is Idigbo, which is an African hardwood if I remember rightly, yeah, special project this one, and it's an Easywood Tools project. I'm going to do the entire project using Easywood Tools. So here we go. We're using the new parting tool, which cuts incredibly efficiently, and then using an Easy Rougher just to create the rest of the recess. Nice and easy. Just neatening that up. Taking it off taking the faceplate off, putting on the Easy Chuck with the step jaws. The blank's reversed round now, and I'm using the jaws in expansion. Brought up the tailstock to support. Here I'm just truing up the face. Now these are what I would call resin savers. They're bits of old scrap plywood I've glued together and cut into the round. And I'm gluing these onto the Idigbo using some fast set epoxy resin, using the tailstock to apply pressure and to centre it. As you can see, there's 2 discs I've put on there, and I'm now shaping these. And these resin savers, they're going to reduce how much resin by filling up the inside with wood. The top part of this bowl is going to be resin, but I don't want to waste a whole half bowl's worth of resin.
We've got some black milliput here. I'm going to make a black rim to this enclosed bowl. This is the plan at this stage. I'm still not sure at this stage whether it's going to work. I allow that to set, and then I'm truing that up. You just see that little retention groove around the edge of the Idigbo that I cut with the parting tool. That just gives a bit of extra adhesion for the resin. I'm now mixing up some of the new trial colour blue milliput. Mix it thoroughly for 5 minutes. Make sure there's no streaks in it. And now I'm going to mix a little bit of the black milliput again. Just a little bit. And I mix that thoroughly for 5 minutes. And then put a thin layer of the black over the larger blue piece. I'm then tearing that and tearing it and squashing it together to create marbling. You don't want to over mix it, otherwise you'll lose the marbling. But then I'll roll it into a sausage and it's back out into the workshop. And I'll squidge that around because it's going to form the next part of the rim. So we've got a black ring and now we're having a marbled milliput ring. Let that cure and then cut it, true it up, bring it to round. Lovely coloured shavings coming off here. Just profiling it there. Then mix up some more black milliput. Squidge that around to form the next band. And a black band. Wait for that to cure and then I'm cutting that to round. And profiling it. That's come out very well. I like the pattern. Do a bit of recycling now. I've got this old deionised water can, HDPE. I'm just cutting that out and that's going to form the mould. A bit of hot glue. I'm gluing that around. A couple of bits it took. Lots and lots of glue. Making sure it's all sealed. Taking no chances. Extra glue all around the edge and then I'm taping it as well. That helps hold it together. And if the resin should overheat, it'll stop the glue coming apart. Now I'm using one of my favourite resins. This is a Clear Top 35 epoxy resin from MBFG. This is a very slow set epoxy resin. I've mixed it thoroughly and I'm pouring it into the mould. And it doesn't leak. Into the pressure pot until it's cured. So it's up to 60 psi. Then I left it 24 hours. It's a 48-hour cure, but the heat in there and the fact there was quite a large volume, it cured very quickly. Here I'm demoulding, pulling off the HDPE. You can see how well that's come out. I'm very pleased with that. So we're back on the lathe. I've brought the tailstock up, make sure it's all true. And I'm doing some rough shaping with an Easywood Tools Pro Easy Rougher. This isn't a Negative Rake one at this point. This is just the standard tip and I'm just using it to rough out the shape. These shavings was something else. I looked like I'd been cobwebbed by some giant spider. You can see the dust coming off this wood. I'm just getting the shape right. Taking my time, cutting on centre all the time, keeping the tool level. Just working my way around until I'm happy with the profile. But this dust went everywhere. My workshop is absolutely coated in it. So I'm going to have to do some major vacuuming at some point. Just doing a few final cuts now. So I'm happy with the shape. That should do it.
I've left this a couple of days on the lathe, ready to finish turning the outside. I'll give you some close-ups in a minute, and I'll explain why the Negative Rake tips from Easywood Tools will be doing a good job on this. I had to top the resin up. I had to cast it twice because the level had dropped. And I thought it leaked at first, but it hadn't leaked. What actually happened is that the wood and the plywood had actually absorbed a lot of the resin, which is a pain because resin's precious, and also it means that this plywood is going to be a lot more difficult to hollow out because it's now impregnated with resin. So from being a relatively soft wood to get out, it's going to be quite hard. I should have sealed the wood first, and in fact next time I will. And this Idigbo as well has absorbed a fair bit of resin. But I'll give you a little close-up. When I was turning the outside of this, I wasn't using the Negative Rake tips, I was just using the standard roughing tip, and I was getting chipping out along this bit, which I'll show you in a minute, and when I switch to the Negative Rake, I'll be able to get rid of that chipping out. This bit came off in lovely ribbons. Now the reason for the difference is because this had had an extra day to set to cure, and this was freshly cured, and resin gets, the epoxy resin particularly, gets harder and harder, and more prone to chipping out. So I was quite keen to rough out this top bit before it fully cured, and it's worked well. But we've got, you can see the Milliput bands, and then we've got clear resin, and I'll be hollowing out all this plywood. But let's give you a close-up of the chipping out, which we're going to get rid of. These flat bits are where it's not cut back fully yet. These are the edges of the mould, so once it's fully round, these won't be here, these bits, but you can see the chipping out here. Just see that chipping out. That's what we've got to get rid of. And usually you can do it by angling the tool handle upwards to create a negative rake, but that decreases your control. So a negative rake tip really is a game changer. But there we are, it's all ready to finish the outside, and then we've got the difficult task of hollowing. I'm now ready to start using the new Negative Rake tip on this, so I get a nice clean cut on this resin and no chipping out. So here's the replacement tip from Easywood Tools, and these are different in that the top edge isn't flat, it's got a chamfer on it to create the negative rake. The important thing is to make sure you've got the correct tool handle to match the tip, and I don't know if you can see on this, but it says CI2 there, and this corresponds to this CI2 negative rake NR on here. So it's the same shape tip but with a negative rake. Simply undo the little machine screw with the Allen key and change it over. So I'll do that now, and then we'll get back to some turning. There it is, the negative rake tip. I don't know if you can quite see it on here, but there is a chamfer around it to create the negative rake. The top edge dips down, and this means that you will be holding the tool level, so it gives you maximum control, cutting edge on centre, and you'll have a nice negative rake there to deal with the resin. These tips are available in the UK from amazon.co.uk, and just check if you're buying any Easywood tools off Amazon that it says sold by Easywood Tools, fulfilled by Amazon.
So we're back on the lathe now, and I'm using the mid-size Easy Rougher here, but with the negative rake tip on. I'm just getting the profile right, and it's almost around. Those little windows have almost disappeared. And it's cutting this resin beautifully. No chipping out at all. It's eliminated all the chipping out that was there. Just working backwards and forwards. And just doing some final cuts here, just getting the shape right. Then some rotary sanding. Sanding up to 320. Then we're using some cellulose sanding sealer from Chestnut Products, and this is the aerosol one, which is really good on porous wood like this. But as you can see, there's some blotches appearing. This isn't from the sanding sealer, this is from the resin that's soaked into the Idigbo in the pressure pot. And it's spoiled the appearance a bit. The sanding sealer just highlights it. So we need a design change. So here I'm using the Easy Wood Tools parting tool just to create a couple of recesses. Angling the handle up a little bit on this initial cut so I don't chip out the edge of the resin. These are only shallow cuts. I'm just doing a couple of bands around this, which we're going to fill with black milliput. So mix it up, squash it all in thoroughly. Once it's cured, cutting it back and then hollowing out between the two, using the parting tool there just to create another recess. I've mixed up some more marbled milliput and I'm squidging that in, leaving no voids and leaving it slightly proud. When that's cured, we cut that back to reveal the pattern. That's looking good. It's got rid of those horrible marks around the edge. Now sanding up to 400, and then the Chestnut Products Cellulose sanding sealer again. And this spray stuff really is brilliant. Now we're going to use Yorkshire grit original, lots of it, and working that with a circular leather pad and buffing it all away. This gives a great finish on its own, but we're going with the Yorkshire grit Microfine because I really want that resin like glass. I apply it with the lathe stationery, and I'm using a leather buffing pad again. I'm really working that, and you can see the finish on that. It's amazing. Now microcrystalline wax, another one from Chestnut Products, and that's just to finish off the wood nicely. Here we're starting the long job of hollowing, and I'll start with the Pro Easy Rougher, and then switch to the Easy Finisher, the Pro one. Just seeing what works best on this plywood really. And then I switched to the Easy Wood Tools #1 Hollower, and this is a brilliant little tool. Made short work of this plywood. Hollowed it out very quickly. This is the standard tip on this at the moment. You can see working through the layers of plywood, and the Idigbo's beginning to appear at the bottom there. It's a great tool, this. The amount of dust this generated was unbelievable. I had to repeatedly hoover out the bowl, because being an enclosed bowl, it traps all the dust inside. It doesn't shed any of the dust, so you have to hoover out the shavings quite regularly. Now we're switching to the #2 Hollower, and this is with the standard tip on still, and this is brilliant for getting under this rim, this enclosed rim. And now we're changing the tip on the #1 Hollower to the Negative Rake tip. We're changing at this point because the resin is beginning to show. We've got rid of the plywood now, and I don't want to start chipping out the resin. I haven't got much room to play with this resin. You know, if I overcut it, it's going to spoil the whole bowl. Now we're switching to the slightly larger round tip on the mid-size Easy Finisher, and I'm fitting the Negative Rake tip on that, just to get the final finishing cuts on this resin without chipping it out. and lighting is key for doing this. Now sanding. The Idigbo's hollowed as well, the base. Lots of hoovering. 2 coats of the sanding sealer. This is for the wood, not the resin. And then we're going with the Yorkshire Grit Original and Microfine again. Just doing the same process as we did with the outside, and doing using a buffing pad. And here I'm using some Vonax on a buffing wheel, just to try and buff the inside. Taking it off the chuck, changing the chuck jaws from the step jaws, switching over to the 16-inch Big Easy jaws. Very simple job changing those over. Bit of paper to protect the bowl, and then expand the jaws into the top of the bowl. And now cutting away the recess and sanding it away. Branding and finishing. Then I've got my buffing wheel on the lathe with some Vonax just to give it that final polish up.
Well, I've reached the end of another project, and this one was a long one, bit of a mammoth one. It was done to demonstrate the Easywood Tools new Negative Rake cutters, which are designed specially for resin, and they are fantastic. They are a game changer, there's no doubt about it. I had to come up with something a bit special really to demonstrate these, so I was pushing Resin and Milliput to the limit. Anyway, here it is, the finished bowl. It's an enclosed bowl, Idigbo base, marbled Milliput pattern with the trial colour blue, clear epoxy resin. You can see how clear I've got that, got it like glass really. It'd be better if I had a couple of the ball shaped polishing mops. I should have picked a couple up when I was down at Yandles with my friend Nick Zametti. So we went to the Yandles show last week. But I'm really pleased with that. It's come out superbly. And in fact, I've got another project on the go where I use one of my resin savers. You know, I've shaped a piece of wood to reduce the amount of resin used. And I've got another one of those on the go for next time, which is promising to be really good. But I hope you like that. It's not flawless, you know, but it's as good as I'm going to get, I think, really. You can just about see the line between the two layers of resin, because I couldn't judge the cure time with it being in the pressure pot. If you catch it just right, you won't see the join, but there's a slight diffractive difference, so you can just see it in certain angles. And there's a couple of bits of dust got in there as well, but yeah, absolutely delighted with that. Hopefully you've not seen anything like that before. I like to try and come up with new ideas whenever I can, but yeah, delighted with that. I finished off using a polishing mop on my lathe, and in fact I didn't show this in the video, but I actually got this right inside to polish the inside. It's a bit nerve-wracking because anyone who does buffing on a buffing wheel knows that it can grab, and it could have all ended in tears with this. It could have flung it around everywhere, but who dares wins, you know. Yeah, very pleased with that, and very pleased with the Negative Rake cutters. I had no chipping out at all. They cut the resin beautifully, and I was able to keep the tool level, so you know, got full control. The moment you angle the tool handle upwards, you lose an element of control. I better take some stills, and I'll put those at the end. I'll be back soon with some more videos. Bye for now.
Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and please like, share and subscribe. It costs nothing to subscribe, and you'll be notified about any new videos I put up. Well, we've got lots of other projects planned that'll be coming up soon. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. If you need any information on materials used, have a look at the description. I'll try and list the materials I've used in the description. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all soon.
More rubbish coming soon.
And don't forget to book your Makers Central tickets for next year, 11th and 12th of May 2019 at the NEC in Birmingham. Check out the website for details.